there's a lot of critique of the Anthropocene as a concept, and it's all of the critique I agree with. I mean, I find it totally relevant. The indigenous critique, the feminist critique, the economic critique that would call Anthropocene capitalocene. And some people have said to us, who cares whether the geological epoch is renamed? Like, why does that matter? And I suppose when you look at it specifically from the perspective of science, it enshrining in the geological timescale an epoch that is dominated by one species, I think is a very powerful concept. This is when humans took over the earth as the most dominant force and changed nature more than all other processes combined. This is the moment when that started to happen, and these are the repercussions of it. And probably this pandemic will be named as one of the repercussions. So I think it is relevant, and I think it's something that we have to remember in these times, that this pandemic is part of a bigger picture of impact and wrong interaction that has to change.
I think all of us in this new coronavirus paradigm are trying to sort out what our new world order can look like. And for me personally, so far, I find I've just been reactive to the new situation, just trying to adapt moment by moment and figure out new routines around the parameters, the restrictions. But I've been thinking more recently, because it's 3 weeks in for me now, almost 3 weeks, that this should absolutely be an opportunity to be proactive and to use the newfound time, I think, that a lot of us find that we have on our hands. I saw a quote the other day where never have so many been asked to do so little in this current situation of us all needing to stay home to stop the virus vectors. And I think that that sustained reflection that might now be possible as we have less sensory input out in the world and going to our workplaces and our usual, sometimes frenetic modern schedules, should be an opportunity to really think in a big picture way about our lives and our practices. And that was really one of the philosophies of our filmmaking and our storytelling in the Anthropocene project. We wanted it to stand out in a busy world as a place for reflection and for meditation on a really big level, an almost diagrammatic level, on the whole planet and in geological time.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. When I first went to China in 2002, the first city I actually went to, which is interesting, was Wuhan. So my first 2 days in China was in Wuhan. And when I started thinking, and when I saw images of Wuhan in January, where the city, when I got there, it was a city of about 6 million people. It's over 10 million now. And it was like a bustling city then, and looking at it with kind of empty streets in January, I thought, oh wow, that's crazy, a city that scale, boarded up. I just came back from Lagos, a city of over 20 million people. I said, how do you do that? It's already close quarters. But I think the Anthropocene, going back to the Anthropocene project, I mean, one of the things that my work is always, and the work of the Anthropocene team, has been about talking about, how, in a way, we have our boot on nature's neck, and we're, really overreaching. We're really going too deep, too far, taking too much, whether it's the oceans, whether it's the forests, whether it's the soils and agriculture, just point in any direction, and it's too much, and burning too much energy and too much CO2 into the atmosphere. So, I mean, the project wanted to bring awareness that, there is a price being paid for the lives that we lead in the cities that we live in.
We had somebody in our office do, one of our researchers, a brief on all of the positive environmental impacts of COVID, right? The fact that, you know, CO2 levels are down in the air, and because of air travel being suspended, and, you know, even though some of the initial images were not true, but, you know, fish returning to the canals in Venice and stuff, you know, and you look at that and say, wow, it sort of goes back to me for that last line in the film of the narration that says, you know, we have the capacity and ingenuity to react to this crisis. We just need the collective will. And I think one of the things that we can take away from this pandemic, despite the overwhelming tragedy of the number of people who are sick, the number of people who are dying, is that we do have this capacity to come together collectively and be kind to each other and work cooperatively, and for the most part do things that are going to protect other people. You know, isolation is about protecting other people, not just yourself. And so those things I find heartening, I suppose. That's one thing that I'm trying to take away that is positive.
If you want to think of the global community, of our whole species being connected, then you can think of us as humans almost as one organism, and the health of all of us is important to the health of any of us, and I think we need to start thinking more that way. We need to be a healthy global community. And things like pollution, a lot of the sort of negative consequences that we bring up in the Anthropocene project are detrimental to our overall health, our collective health. And now, as we look at this pandemic, where the only known cure is a healthy immune system in your body. There isn't some miracle technology. There may be drugs and vaccines in the future, but right now it really is our own, you know, metabolic health. I think that's a very apt analogy for us all as a society, and to look at how we can improve our relationship to the natural systems on the planet, the planet's health, and how it affects our collective health. I mean, in lots of the global northern countries, ostensibly the most healthy, best nutrition, best healthcare systems, a lot of those countries are looking for the first time at generations that are alive today that for the first time will have a lower life expectancy than the generation before. And I think we really need to examine why that is, and why progress has become regress in a lot of these cases. And I think it is tied up in these issues of environment and climate, and again, themes of that were explored in the Anthropocene project.
Particularly those of us who live in urban environments, we think of ourselves as being separate from nature. So we make forays into nature. We go for walks, you know, we go on hikes or canoe trips or things like that. And that's us being in nature. And then we come back to our urban lives and we think that we go on as normal. But every single thing we do every day in our urban lives is connecting to or taking from nature in some way. And I think those disconnects, the disconnectedness is also partly responsible for the fact that we don't feel integrated in a way that when nature goes down, we're going down too. And so one of the goals of the project and the film, and certainly all the collaborative work that we've done with Edward Burtynsky since Manufactured Landscapes, was to draw attention to those places that we are responsible for but would never normally see. And what is it like in these places? What is it like to just be in these places for a while and try to understand them and understand our own connection to them without being preached at? The films are not didactic, and the work is not didactic, very specifically for the reason of wanting to engage people in thinking about this and their own implication and coming to their own conclusions. So, you know, Norilsk, Russia, for example, is a place that nobody would ever go. Even Russians can't go there normally. You have to get a special permit to go there. It's a strategic city. But Norilsk is the biggest producer of palladium in the world, and palladium is in all of our cell phones. And the chance that the cell phone that I am, you know, texting on while I'm here in isolation at home to keep in touch with other people has palladium in it from Norilsk. There's a very big chance of that, and yours. And so we are connected to that place that is one of the most polluted places on Earth. The goal of the project is witnessing, really, and allowing us to individually and collectively witness and reflect on our own implication. I think that is also worthwhile in this particular crisis that we're in to think about, to keep kind of pulling back to a bigger picture and our own place in all the things that we do every day that are impactful.
I kind of have a feeling that this particular moment in history will actually be a systemic change to human behavior. I don't think we're going to go back to the same space that we just left, and which is a kind of an interesting thing. And it could be good things that are lost, but there could be a lot of bad things that we lose in the process too. And as long as we kind of shed a lot of the bad behavior in exchange for better behavior, and that better behavior, I would think, is a kind of a more sustainable, less frenetic life, a little bit more concern and for community, because community is going to be really important in the rebuild after this, and you know how we all kind of have to pull together in a particular direction. So hopefully it unifies versus polarizes us, and that time will tell.